Hey folks, Brendan here from Bluelight. Now, if you're going for the police recruitment process and you're approaching the final interview, or even if you're not that far ahead yet, you should be thinking about the sort of questions that you're going to get asked at your final interview. And they're getting increasingly more complex. What I'm seeing across forces is more than just the "can you tell me about a time when" traditional competency and values framework type question. I'm starting to see a lot more questions on values, motivation, ethics, the sort of decisions that you would make in certain scenarios. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about in this video. So if you've not seen any of these before, welcome to the Bluelight family. There's over 22,000 members in the Facebook group, and you'll see the link below to the Facebook group, and easily a good 13,000 people who I've helped support in the police recruitment process over the past decade. I've been doing this now for 26 years. I've been in the police sector for 37 years, supporting people, helping people for promotion boards, specialist interviews for 26 of those years. A lot of that time whilst I was serving as a sergeant and as an inspector in Greater Manchester Police. So plenty of experience behind my advice and guidance. So forces like Essex are using more scenario-based questions. Durham do this as well. And the sort of scenarios they're going to present to you are things like you are attending a report of a domestic dispute, and when you get there, when you arrive, it's clear that there's a woman there who appears to have been assaulted. She's got visible signs of an injury. She's very reluctant to speak to you, very reluctant to tell you what happened. And they may also introduce children into the scenario. They may also introduce, and whilst you're talking to her, the husband or the partner returns and seems very angry at your presence. How would you deal with this? Or they may give you a scenario. This is a very traditional one that's been knocking around for decades. I think I had something like this in my recruitment interview many moons ago, back in 1985, before I joined the Cheshire Constabulary. Yep, I wasn't always in GMP. I was in Cheshire first, then I went to Bermuda, and then I went to GMP. Join the police and see the world, that's what I say. So I was asked a question about a fight that's taking place outside a pub. How would you approach that? Let's see if we can think of another one. Oh yeah, one that's just cropped up recently is you submit some evidence which actually is incorrect, and you're aware that it's incorrect, and it could influence the prosecution or lack of prosecution against someone suspected of an offence. So basically you've made a mistake and it can have serious repercussions. What are you going to do? Other scenarios, things like you're out on patrol with your sergeant, and your sergeant makes an inappropriate comment about a female that's coming out of a nightclub. They may even go into the detail as to what that inappropriate comment is. Or it could be that you're out with your tutor constable, and tutor constable makes remarks about a member of the travelling community. Or your tutor constable goes to get something to eat from a fast food outlet and doesn't appear to pay. So they're giving you so many conundrums here, and these are sort of conundrums that you might well be faced with. You're certainly going to be faced with domestic violence and reluctant victims. You're certainly going to be faced with a couple of people scrapping outside a pub, and you're certainly going to be faced with making mistakes. You're certainly going to be faced with that. Are you going to witness some inappropriate behaviour? Probably. So what they're doing is they're testing you out here to see how you'd react, what your values are really like, because they can ask you all the questions they want about times when you've demonstrated values in the past, but that's not always the best judge of how you would actually deal with things in the future. So I'm going to make some more videos after this for those of you who are in the interview course, and I'll put them in the interview course Facebook group. But first of all, just to give you a feel for the sort of models and structures that we can utilize. In terms of dealing with incidents, we can use the National Decision Model, where we run through a variety of different stages looking at collecting information and intelligence, and that's a key one for domestic violence. Assessing the threat, what potential harm could come, and what the risk of that harm is. So where the threat's coming from, what potential harm could come to the victim, and what's the risk of that harm actually happening. And then looking at what we're trying to achieve. So are we trying to achieve the arrest of the offender, or are we more interested in protecting and safeguarding the victim, or both? What are our powers? You may not need to know that because you're not in the police yet, but certainly what's the force policy around domestic violence and vulnerable people? You should know this. You should know this. In your research, you should have uncovered what the force policy is in respect of vulnerable people and domestic violence. And then you're going to consider your options. What sort of options do I have? Why would I choose the option that I chose? And that's your decision. Then you'd look at how you'd review and monitor your decision. So you don't just make a decision and leave it. You actually reflect on what you're doing and revisit it to make sure that it's the correct decision. And so that's the basics of the National Decision Model. Of course, there's other models that you can utilize, things like CUDSA, which is confront, understand, define and summarize. Solutions, assess and monitor and result. This is a really good non-contact conflict management model to deal with things like inappropriate comments. Anyway, I'm going to give you some examples in the next videos, which are just for my clients. These are the people who are on my interview course, and these videos will go in the interview course Facebook group. And if you really like them, I'll add them to the online course as well. You can find more details of those down below. I hope you find it useful. Please do come and join those webinars. We hold them every week, and you also get access to previous recordings of webinars. Almost 2 years worth. My goodness, that's enough to geek out on. Forget Amazon Prime and Netflix. I know what you'll be doing over the next several months. You'll be geeking out on other people practicing and getting involved in the weekly practicing as well. All right, I shall catch up with you very soon, folks. And for those of you who are on the course, I look forward to sharing with you some words of wisdom that will help you through your interview. Go to the interview course Facebook group, and I'll catch up with you there. Bye-bye for now.